All right. Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to episode 1029 of the podcast. Thanks for tuning into BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. Yanks every series, Knicks every game, MMA on occasion. I'm your host, RJ. The Knicks last night took a tough loss, ending their 7-game win streak, which gave them some hope of getting that 2 seed if you're one who is advocating for them to grab the 2 seed. So in that, they dropped a game with Boston's win last night. Knicks are now 2 games back in the loss column. 114-103 was your final score in this game. The Hornets, yes, the Knicks I think they beat them the 2 other times they played. But that doesn't mean anything. This is not a team, the Hornets, they're not a team I want the Knicks to face if they do somehow, some way, find a way to face each other in the playoffs. Because I think the Hornets are a bad matchup for the Knicks. And so, in this episode, all the themes, basically, that we dive into, we're going to be discussing why I think the Hornets are a bad matchup for the Knicks. We'll talk a little bit about offense, talk a little bit about defense. We'll play on some lineups, talk about that. And then we'll wrap it up, because I don't want this to be too long of a show. Just because it's, we got the Yankees now coming up. So I got to watch the Yankee game soon. Going to cover them. But let's talk about the Knicks. Offensively last night, again, they only scored 103 points. And when the Knicks offense is on and when it's clicking, it's usually, at least when they're at their best, the Brunson Cat pick and roll, right? When they're running pick and roll together, the strategy is to let's do that so we can exploit traditional centers, right? When Towns has a center, and usually it's when it's like a traditional center who's slow and not very mobile, and that center is going to be often in drop coverage. That's when they run pick and roll together, because it creates easy threes, easy drives, and ISOs for Brunson and Cat. Right? It's an easy matchup when Cat's got a big and when Brunson's got a big. But the Hornets don't have a traditional center. They don't have a center who is slow and not very mobile. They've got Mo Diabate playing center for them. And what he basically is he's basically just a big wing. And he's very strong, and he's very physical. And he's got tons of wingspan. And he is somebody who is capable, because of his athleticism and his length, to play up at the level of the screen. And so he can switch on very effectively. So when he's out there, and you saw this last night, the Knicks can't run their normal pick and roll game, because it's the same thing as running pick and roll when Hart and Cat are cross matched. A conversation we've talked about damn near every episode. Except in this game, it's basically not even cross-matching, because you're able to keep a wing on Hart and also put a big wing on Cat. So there's no matchup advantage for the Knicks. So that's the first reason why I think they're a bad matchup. Because Diabate was on Cat. If they ran pick and roll together, him and Brunson, you weren't getting those easy shots or easy isolations. So when I look up and I see Cat finishing with 8 shot attempts, and I do think part of that is, Mike Brown, and we do need to talk about Mike Brown going away from him in the fourth quarter, which I don't think is a solution we should be doing. Not to your highest paid player, not to your player who is supposed to be a big part of this team and is a big-time scorer and has been on this hot run lately. I don't think you can do that. I don't think you can play him just 22 minutes and say, all right, we're done with you in the fourth quarter and the biggest moments of the game. But I'm not going to talk about that too much, because what I really want to talk about is, yes, Cat only had 8 field goal attempts. But I think what people are missing out is that it's because Diabate is not a traditional big. So the Knicks understandably at times, were hesitant to go to those cat actions. And when they did go to cat with Diabate on them, it just led to, some turnovers, a lot of pass outs when he had Diabate on him just because he couldn't get the advantage. He tried posting him multiple times throughout this game, but he just couldn't move him off his spot. He was a brick wall. Brunson tried pick and roll to get baskets, but he couldn't shake Diabate off the switch. So it led to some contested misses, some bad decisions. So when I look up and I see Mo Diabate, yeah, he only had 2 points in this game, but there's a reason he was a plus 15 in the box score. Every time you look up and the Knicks immediately played better whenever he left the floor, right? Late in the first quarter, they finally take him off. The Knicks finally get some offense. They're getting good offensive looks. And then he checks back in, top of the second quarter. What happens? The Knicks struggled. So I think that was a big reason for their lack of offense. And you talk about the top of the second quarter. Those are obviously the lack of Brunson minutes. What's when Brunson goes to the bench. A lot of directionless offense. When Brunson went to the bench, top of the second, nobody could get the Knicks into their offense with pace or any kind of decisiveness. And when I say nobody, I'm talking about Jose Alvarado, who continues to, I love him, and I think he's going to be eventually okay, but he does continue to overwhelm as a Knick, and he's been a little disappointing. And in this game, you saw it, you felt it, I'm sure the metrics backed it up. He was just way too slow to get the Knicks into their actions with any type of pace. There was no direction when he was on the floor. He was not looking to shoot. He was not hitting the pass quick enough. There was a possession. They ran double drag. Cat pops. Alvarado just dribbles. He just kind of waits it out. Allows the helper to recover. Cat was standing there open on the pop. Didn't hit him. Ends up rolling in the traffic, and I think Alvarado hits, it was OG in the corner for a shot. It wasn't a good look, and it's just, he's not a guy who can, drive effectively enough. Right now, he's not knocking down shots himself, at least off the dribble. So that allows the defense to kind of cheat off him a little bit and send help coverages elsewhere because they know that he's not knocking down shots off the dribble. He's kind of another Josh Hart in that way. So just possessions were going nowhere in those minutes where Brunson was off. And Alvarado was just missing guys throughout. And I do miss Deuce McBride, and I understand Shamet wasn't out there, but, those aren't guys. Even Deuce has, at least by roster fit, he's supposed to be like the quote-unquote backup point guard. We know he's not a point guard. Right, he's more of a wing in a point guard's body, not a guy who's going to bring that even when he gets back. So I do think some of this is a little bit like in the playoffs, we're not going to have to worry about the lack of a secondary initiator as much because Brunson's only going to be off the floor for 8 minutes tops. But still, 8 minutes is a big deal in a playoff game. That can swing an entire series. And it just got very bad with Alvarado last night. And it got so bad that Mike Brown went to Tyler Kolek in that second half. Kolek didn't play a ton. He played under 6 minutes, but it's just, it's bad when you consider as talented as this offense is, there's still a lot of stuff you need to see cleaned up. The obvious starting lineup stuff with Towns and Hart, that continues to be a problem. You can't run your pick and rolls that way when they're cross-matched. And obviously, again, last night, bunch of wings. You're not getting enough point guard stuff from your point guards behind Brunson. But this Knick offense needs to figure it out because the consistency's just not been there for a long time now. Following very similar trends as last year's offense did in terms of just offensive production falling off. And so for a team that's not a great defense, they're going to have to rely on their offense to win this title if they're looking to win. Right? They're not going to win behind defense. There's a reason when the Knicks were on that stretch where they held their opponents to, a defensive rating of like 96 over a month span. I was happy about it, but I also knew, and we've talked about it on this show, I'm not going to fully buy into that. I said it. That they're far from having things completely figured out on that end. They played lots of bottom tier competition. And they finally see a real NBA offense last night in Charlotte, and they were exposed a bit. And I thought they played very unintelligent defense. The Hornets take 41 three-point attempts. They shoot 39%. They were 6 for 11 in the first quarter, and then 5 for 9 in the third quarter, which is where I thought the game got out of hand. Just whether they just weren't matching up in transition off of those offensive rebounds they were giving up led to easy three-pointers because they weren't getting back quick enough and matching. They were going under on a lot of those LaMelo ball screens, leading to easy threes, and just sending unnecessary help, which put them in rotation and led to easy threes and weak side buckets. I thought Josh Hart was very bad on that end. I thought Towns wasn't great. Brunson had a difficult time. Clarkson, I thought, was atrocious. It started out pretty promising. The Knicks were in ice coverage early on pick and rolls, and it was working. Drew a couple offensive fouls, got a couple stops. But then the Hornets started to go to more and more double drag actions, horn sets, ghost screen actions where they pop real quickly, second side actions, staggers on the weak side. They started going to all these types of actions where multiple guys were in it, right? Lots of motion offense surrounding it with layered sets, and that completely threw the Knicks off. It put them in rotation. It put them in a blender. It forced them to make decisions on the fly, kind of like we always talk about when the Knicks struggle defending the Pacers. Similar. So the Hornets were just consistently putting both Brunson and Cat in action at once. They'd both be in the action together on a single play. And you had possessions where during these double drags or whatever type of action, you had Cat dropping. He was in drop coverage and he wasn't staying home in coverage up top, and that was leading to some open threes. I didn't love that decision. I feel like you either live with the switch or you play up at the level. Got beat on some threes and also some back cuts because of that. Off those pick and rolls up top. And the Brunson stuff was tough. I think the size disadvantage was noticeable there. Those Knuckle ball screens were hurting him. He was, on a lot of possessions I got to watch the film, but just rotating out to non-shooters off of those actions, no sense to do that because now they make the skip and you're beat on the weak side. But a lot of problems with Brunson and those LaMelo, Miller pick and rolls and a lot of guard screen actions to target him, And if the Knicks were trying to scram switch or pre-switch Brunson out of the action, well, then Charlotte just went to Brunson's next assignment, right? And you saw them hit Miles Bridges, who would just end up posting him. And not only is he going to post him because he's got the size, but it's an issue when Bridges is posting him in space because you can't send help without getting beat. Charlotte had floor spacers all around, right? They had Brunson on Bridges. He was posting Bridges on an island, and then they had, 3 floor spacers on the perimeter. They've got Diabate, who they have to kind of glue to because he's their version of Mitch on the offensive glass, where the Knicks were just outworked. They were outclassed on the boards. Charlotte won the rebounding game 43-24. So the Knicks were a minus 19 there on the defensive glass, 31-19. That third quarter, I felt, was a very big part of why they lost, because they were getting killed on the glass. Offensive rebounds, 12-5, Charlotte. I thought they had multiple back-breaking offensive rebounds, the Hornets did, in the fourth quarter. They win the second chance points game 16-9, the Hornets did, and they also won fast break 15-7. Yet Towns and Mitch combined for only 9 rebounds together in these 48 minutes. Didn't help that Brown went to lineups with 3 smalls out there. You give him some credit for going away from Jose Alvarado for Tyler Kolek, but having 3 smalls is tough, especially when Clarkson's one of them. It's just an easy defensive target. So, yeah, the Knicks were put in action a lot. Their 2 worst defenders put in action at the same time didn't help things. And so they got outclassed. They got exploited a little bit, and I think that's, again, this Hornets team is an issue for the Knicks. It's not a team I would want the Knicks to match up with, do they, in a playoff series. So we're going to head to a quick break, get back, and we won't be too much longer. Stay with us.
Quick break here, guys. Stay connected with BD4 on social media. Follow us on Instagram and X at BD4Pod, and find us on Facebook by searching BD4. Don't miss out. Join the conversation. Want more BD4? Subscribe to our YouTube channel and never miss an episode. Hit that like button, drop a comment, and share with your fellow fans. Don't forget to ring that bell so you're always the first to know when a new video drops. Love BD4 but don't have the time to sit down and watch? Don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify so you never miss an episode. And if you're enjoying the show, leave us a 5-star rating and a quick review. It helps us grow and keeps the conversation going.
All right, welcome back to the show. Welcome back to episode 1029 of the podcast. The Knicks lose. Trying to find the score. I forgot already. 115 or 114 and 103. Excuse me. They lose 114 and 103. Not really particularly great game for anybody. But I think, I wanted to give Brunson a shout out because I do think he kept the Knicks in the game early. And his passing continues to be very good and overshadowed, especially those pocket hits he keeps making. But he's made some nice skip passes too. He did struggle as the game progressed. And his defense, again, got picked apart. So I couldn't give the game ball to him. Hart had some moments. He finishes with... Well, Brunson, first of all, goes 26 and 13. Hart, 16, 7, and 4 with 5 steals. Continues to shoot the three-point ball well and take those threes, which is a good promising sign. I wanted to go to OG Anunoby, though, because I thought he continues to play well and kind of under the radar. It wasn't a loud game. It's never usually loud, even when he has a fantastic game. But he goes for 17 points, 3 rebounds, couple assists, 6 for 10 overall, 5 for 9 from 3. So that was nice and promising. The shot making continues to improve. He has been, I don't know if I want to call it on a heater, but he's been shooting the 3 really, really well for a bit, and he's back up to 38% on the season. Remember, when he first got back from the injury, that was not the case. He was missing a lot. He just wasn't the same, didn't have the same lift. The shot looked a bit off. But recently he's shooting it very well. If you stretch it all the way back to February 27th, his last 15 games, he's shooting 47% from the three-point line on just under 7 3-point attempts per game. Very, very, very efficient for a very long time. So, He now has 9 game balls on the season. You go to the second unit. Again, I didn't particularly love, don't know why I can't say that word today. Let's try it again. I didn't particularly love the way anybody played. I thought Jordan Clarkson had some good offensive moments, but he got burnt defensively. I didn't think Mo Diawara gave you too much. And Alvarado, again, continues to underwhelm. Kolek didn't play enough, so I think that leaves us with Mitch Robinson, who, again, didn't play great basketball, but I do think he was better than the rest. Finishes the game +8. He had 6 rebounds, 4 points, 2 out of 2 shooting. An assist, a steal, a block, played 26 minutes. Defense wasn't that big an issue with him. So I'll go to Mitch, who now has 20 game balls on the season. That's cool. But other than those two guys who got the 2 game balls, can't say this was a very promising game. Up next, though, for your Knicks, now you got a bit of a tougher schedule to wrap up the year. That easy part is over, and you've got the OKC Thunder on Sunday night. So you still got the day off today, and you still got the day off tomorrow. But you're going back out there on Sunday to play a Hornets or to play a Thunder team that's obviously the number 1 seed in basketball, to be honest. So that game will be 7:30 Sunday night. And it is in Oklahoma. So we'll see what happens there. You know, the Knicks gave the Thunder a good fight the first time they played each other, which I believe was earlier this month. You know, Thunder a little bit more whole now, I think. And the Knicks are expecting Deuce McBride back. They said there's a chance that Deuce could play on Sunday, so that'd be nice. But the fact that there is a chance at all is good. That he can get a couple of regular season games under his belt and not just be back literally for a playoff series. That was what I was fearing. So if he can be back either Sunday or, Tuesday, that's big. So with that said, we're not going to have any trivia. We're just going to wrap this one right here. I do appreciate you all for tuning in and listening. But the Knicks lose to the Hornets, 114-103. We'll talk soon. Later. Hey guys, thank you for listening to BD4. Be sure to follow us on social media, subscribe to us on YouTube, and give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. We'll see you next time.